throughout my life, I've always had a degree of comfort in the certainty that the structures that society has put in place provide. You start in school, there's a rigid timeline, a timetable, there are exams and holidays at set times, and it's very difficult to fall out of that structure. Whilst that can smother some, it also provides a framework for others, and I think I benefited from that framework. Then I went on to university, and whilst you have a lot more independence, the same structures are there. You have lectures at certain times, tutorials at others, exams here, essays then, and holidays come and go. During my time at university, I was pretty set that I wanted to continue doing the degree that I had chosen, which was law. I wanted to practice law and continue learning beyond the degree, beyond the courses. So I set out to secure a training contract, which, if you don't know, is the next step you need in order to qualify as a lawyer. It takes, the whole process in Scotland at least takes about 7 years from starting your undergrad to qualifying when you finish your 2-year training contract. I went through all sorts of trials and tribulations to get that training contract. It was a very competitive process. The idea of what big law firms look for in candidates isn't really a joke. It's certainly dramatized in the media, but the competitiveness and the caliber of people, the standard of talent was so high, even at that stage, even at university. But I was lucky enough to get a training contract at a good firm where I currently work, and that was about second year or third year, so about halfway through my undergrad. And so again, I had that structure. I had something that when I completed my undergraduate and postgraduate courses, I would go on, and there was a degree of certainty that I would be in this place doing this thing, and it was all prearranged and guaranteed to an extent. So whilst many of my friends were going through the process of entering into the graduate job market, I was technically doing the same, but I wasn't approaching it with the same level of uncertainty that they were. I'd got that locked down already, and therefore there was a degree of comfort. That last year of university I was able to focus on meeting people, making friends, expanding my network, and focusing on what sorts of areas of law I wanted to do. That was a fortune, a privilege that I had afforded myself by planning my future in advance. But I'm coming towards the end of my training contract now, and there's a degree of uncertainty for the first time. I never knew I was going to get the training contract. I never knew I was going to get into the university that I did go. So, yeah, there's uncertainty there. But with the training contract ending and that fixed term contract ending, I'm not sure what the next steps look like. I can say what I'd like them to be, what I think they're going to be, what I hope they'll be. There might be, a number of options that I think this one is the best one, this one is almost as good, and this one is good for different reasons. I can tell you what I'd like the picture to look like, but I can't tell you what the picture will look like. That's coming up in September. It's early May now, so again, it's a long way away. But in my mind, I feel that for the first time, I have a genuine uncertainty as to what I will do next. I think that started by, well, it caused me to feel a degree of anxiety, and at some points a great deal of anxiety, because for the first time, and to in a delayed way, I'd started to feel that sort of, no, I don't know where I'll be soon, whereas all my friends had already dealt with that when they first graduated. So in a way, I feel sort of unprepared for this sort of way of living, this sort of feeling. It's the first time I've encountered it, really, and I speak with privilege saying that I haven't had to wrestle with those constant changes and not knowing what will come next so far in my life. It started with anxiety, and I felt that this rigidity that I had set in my mind for what would come next had been sort of, that image had been sort of broken down a bit, and I wasn't able to guarantee in the same way that I had been so far in my life what would happen next. And you want to have a degree of certainty in life. You want to commit to something, and if you don't know what will come next, it's very difficult to choose what to commit to. I'm the sort of person where I go all in on what I do, and not knowing what to go all in on is quite difficult. I spoke to so many people that had been through similar things, so many of my friends, my family, my network at large, and they all said the same sort of things. They all said very sensible things about the inevitability of that, about how progressing through your life and career will mean that there are inevitably a great deal of uncertainties. But it didn't kind of take away the feeling. I guess it was an unreasonable expectation for them to just remove the feeling from my head. But the point I'm trying to make is, just because they'd gone through it and it was inevitable, that didn't change how I was feeling at the time. So I sat with that and realized that I needed to change my frame of mind and look at it in a more, opportunistic, I guess, in an optimistic way. I needed to use it as a sort of catalyst for me to explore the sorts of things that I really want to do. I think that's the reason for this video. I think when someone with my sort of temperament and mind comes to this level of career or life uncertainty, it tends to cause a great deal of anxiety. But what I've found over time is that it's actually an opportunity, because it's forced me to ask myself what it is I really enjoy, what it is I really want to do, where I want to be. I mean, what city, what country, how I want to be seen. These questions are not at the top of your mind when you're busy doing something that you've guaranteed for yourself that you would do 3 years ago. That is a privilege. Being able to understand myself better in that way and ask myself difficult questions can be an uncomfortable experience, but it has to be done. You need to know yourself, and if this hadn't happened now, and if everything had remained guaranteed, and there was a rigid structure to it all, as there always has been, I don't know if I would have asked myself the questions as early as I have now. I think what I'm trying to say is that when you meet these sorts of challenges in life, there's always going to be a silver lining. And actually, I feel a lot more confident now in who I am, in what I bring, and who I want to be. Not all who wander are lost.